I never thought I'd be one of those guys writing on Reddit about infidelity, but here I am. I, 34 million, have been married to my wife, 32 million for 7 years. We met in college, did the whole best friends to lovers thing, and for the longest time I thought we had a rock-solid marriage. We bought a small house in the suburbs, had 2 dogs, built routines. I worked in logistics, she worked in an office downtown for a mid-sized company. Things were good, normal. At least that's what I believed. The first warning signs came about 6 months ago. My wife started working late. At first, I didn't question it much. Her company had been going through some restructuring, so I figured maybe she was just under pressure. Then she started coming home later and later, sometimes well past 10 p.m. When I'd ask about it, she'd brush me off with a sharp, "I'm working. Overtime, don't make it a big deal." Then, out of nowhere, she got a big raise. Like a really big raise. She was suddenly making more money than me. I was proud of her at first, but something about it didn't sit right. She'd been complaining about her boss and her workload for months, and now she was suddenly being rewarded like this? It felt off. Still, I pushed those doubts down. We were paying off debts faster, eating out more, and she kept saying, "This is all for us, babe." I wanted to believe her. God, I really did. Fast forward a couple months, and I had a business trip scheduled. Just a boring 2-day thing out of state. I packed, kissed her goodbye in the morning, and left for the airport. But when I got there, I got a text. Trip canceled due to weather. I thought, cool, I'll just head home and surprise her with takeout and a movie night. On the way back, I was actually kind of excited. We hadn't been spending much time together, and I figured this was a chance to reconnect. I even picked up her favorite wine. When I pulled into the driveway, I noticed something strange. Her car was already there. That threw me off because she'd texted earlier about working late. I brushed it off, thinking maybe she got lucky and left early. The house was quiet when I walked in. Too quiet. I called her name, no answer. My stomach started sinking, but I didn't know why. I walked upstairs, and that's when I heard it. Voices, laughing, and then the sounds you don't ever want to hear coming from your bedroom. I froze. My body just locked up. I knew before I opened the door, but I still opened it. And there they were, my wife and her boss, in my bed. Our bed. She saw me first and went pale like she'd seen a ghost. He scrambled to cover himself, but honestly, I barely looked at him. My eyes were on her, and it felt like something inside me had been ripped apart. All the late nights, the rays, the sudden coldness, it all made sense in a single, crushing moment. I didn't scream. I didn't throw things. I just stood there, holding the damn wine bottle like an idiot. My voice came out calm, too calm. "So this is what overtime looks like?" She jumped out of bed, grabbing a sheet around herself, and started with the excuses immediately. Wait, it's not what you think." Classic line, right? Except it was exactly what I thought. Her boss just kept muttering something about leaving, fumbling to grab his pants, but she snapped at him. "Stay! Don't make this worse." That shocked me. She wasn't even embarrassed. She was angry at him for almost bailing. Then she turned it on me. "Listen, it was never about him. It was about the money. You know how stressed we've been, how tight things were. He offered me more if I made him happy. I only did it for us." That hit me like a truck. She wasn't even denying it, she was justifying it. I told her she had promised me before that she'd cut ties, that she'd quit. And she had looked me in the eye back then and said, "It's over, I'll stop." I just want us. Now she had the nerve to act like I was unreasonable for expecting her to keep that word. Then came the gaslighting. She said, "You were supposed to be gone. Why are you even here? If you hadn't come back early, this wouldn't have blown up like this." I couldn't believe it. She was blaming me for walking into my own house. At that point, something inside me broke. The calm was gone, and I told her straight up, "No more lies, no more excuses. We're done." And she actually laughed. Laughed. "You're not going anywhere," she said. "You love me too much to leave. You'd never start over." That was the moment I realized she wasn't just cheating. She was manipulative to her core. After that confrontation, I left the room. Honestly, I don't even remember walking out of the house. I just remember standing in my car, shaking so hard I couldn't get the keys into the ignition. It felt like my whole world had collapsed in the span of 5 minutes. I sat there for what felt like hours, replaying everything in my head. The late nights, the sudden raise, her saying, "It's all for us." The way she looked me in the eye a month ago and swore she'd quit that job. It wasn't just the sex that killed me, it was the lies, the manipulation, the fact that she could sell me a story so convincingly that I doubted my own instincts. I thought back to all the times I noticed something off and chose to trust her anyway. Every time I overrode my gut in favor of believing my wife. And she used that against me. The worst part? A small part of me still wanted to forgive her. That thought made me hate myself. It's like my brain hadn't caught up to reality yet. 7 years together doesn't just vanish overnight, even when it should. That night, I didn't go home. I crashed at a buddy's place. He could tell something was wrong just from the way I looked, and when I told him, he was furious on my behalf. But even as he ranted about how I deserved better, all I felt was hollow. Shock gave way to anger, anger to grief, grief to exhaustion. It was like I was cycling through all 5 stages of heartbreak on repeat. One minute I wanted to scream. The next I wanted to beg her for an explanation that would somehow make sense, even though I knew there wasn't one. By the time the sun came up, I realized if I stayed, if I let her talk me into believing her again, I'd lose myself completely. The next day I went back to the house when I knew she'd be at work. Packed a bag, grabbed some essentials, and left. I didn't even want to face her again while my emotions were still raw. I knew she'd try to twist everything, and I wasn't strong enough yet to handle it. Later that evening, she blew up my phone. Calls, texts, voicemails. The whole range. Crying, yelling, bargaining. One voicemail was her sobbing that I'd misunderstood everything. Another was her calmly explaining how we can get through this if you just think logically. Then the last one that night was her snapping. "You're really going to throw away 7 years over one mistake?" One mistake. Like she hadn't been lying and sneaking around for months. I finally picked up just to shut it down. I told her flat out, "We're done. I'll be contacting a lawyer. Don't call me again unless it's about logistics." She went silent for a few seconds, and then, in this cold, venomous tone, she said, "You'll regret this. No one will ever love you the way I did." And then she hung up. That was it for me. Whatever scraps of doubt I still had were gone. The woman I married, the one I thought I knew, didn't exist anymore. She'd been replaced by someone who saw me as a safety net, not a partner. So I called a lawyer the very next morning, started the process of separation, blocked her on everything except email for necessary communication. It was terrifying, but also freeing. Once the papers were in motion, things got messy fast. She did exactly what I expected, tried to spin the whole situation like she was the victim. She told mutual friends that I abandoned her over nothing and that it was just a fling, not worth destroying a marriage. Some people actually bought it at first until the truth started leaking out. Her boss? Turns out I wasn't the first, or the only. Word got around her office that he'd been rewarding multiple women the same way. Once HR got wind, he was out, fired. And suddenly her big promotion and fat raise didn't look so noble anymore. It looked like exactly what it was, sleeping her way to the top. She tried using that as leverage, too. Sent me a long email saying, "See? I don't even have that job anymore. Now we can really start fresh." Like losing her affair partner was supposed to be some kind of olive branch. Meanwhile, I was dealing with the fallout emotionally. Every room in the house felt tainted. Our bed especially. I couldn't even look at it without picturing them. That's when I made the call to sell the house. I wasn't about to live inside the crime scene of my marriage. Funny twist, the night before I officially moved out, she showed up uninvited, drunk, crying on the porch. She kept pounding on the door, yelling, "We're supposed to be forever." I didn't let her in. Instead, I recorded it, just in case she tried to pull anything later. She left eventually, but that was the moment it hit me. She wasn't sad about losing me. She was sad about losing control. After all the chaos, I spent weeks alone in the new apartment I'd rented. No wine, no distractions, just me, my thoughts, and way too many late night drives. I cried more than I ever thought I could as a grown man, but slowly that grief started to morph into clarity. I realized something important. This wasn't my fault. I hadn't caused her lies, her manipulation, or her choices. I had loved her, trusted her, and given her every chance to do the right thing. She didn't, and that's on her. It was also liberating in a weird way. I started focusing on myself. Exercise, old hobbies, even reconnecting with friends I'd drifted from during the stress of married life. I learned that you can survive being betrayed in ways that feel apocalyptic. It hurts like hell, but you do survive. I blocked her on everything except necessary legal communication. No social media stalking, no trying to win her back, no falling for her manipulations. For the first time in years, I felt a strange sense of control over my own life. Funny thing, months later, I even ran into her at a grocery store. She looked shocked to see me calm, composed, and moving on. I just nodded and kept walking. It felt victorious in a quiet, understated way. Looking back, I wish I'd trusted my instincts earlier. The late nights, the unexplained rays, the defensiveness, they were all red flags I ignored because I wanted to believe in her. That's the thing about manipulation. It makes you question yourself more than it questions the liar. If there's one thing I can say to anyone going through something similar, it's this. Don't make excuses for someone else's betrayal. Don't rationalize it. Don't wait for them to change. Protect your own heart first. Also, don't underestimate the power of moving on. It sounds impossible when you're in the middle of heartbreak, but life doesn't stop. You can grieve, you can be angry, you can scream in your car at 2 a.m., but eventually you'll find yourself laughing again, focusing on the things that actually matter, and realizing you deserve better. I still think about her sometimes. Who doesn't? But the thoughts are no longer sharp, cutting, or controlling. They're just memories. And that's enough. To anyone reading this, trust yourself, set boundaries, and remember that being hurt doesn't mean you're weak. Walking away from someone who repeatedly betrays you takes more strength than staying ever could.